Hi everyone! Today I'll be talking about repotting plants and a couple tips and tricks on how to do it. So the plants that I'm repotting today are both crotons, and I had them outside all summer, which is partially the reason why I want to repot them. Truffy really wants to be in the video, so I guess she's gonna be. Right, Truff? So the first thing you have to do is get the plant out of the old pot. This is a little trick I use to make cleanup easier. I take a paper yard waste bag and I cut it on all four sides to make a little box. That way you have an area to work in and you can just throw it out afterwards. Then you want to have fresh soil prepared. And I usually don't use just bagged soil straight from the bag. I find that sometimes it tends to get too compacted. It's not airy enough. So I usually make my own mixture, and I'll show you how to do that. To make my soil mixture, I start off with a regular potting soil, which is a mixture of just compost and pretty much perlite and maybe some vermiculite in there. This will be a good portion of the mixture, probably about half or so. Then I add some sphagnum moss, which is great because it can retain up to 20 times its weight in water, and it also aerates the soil nicely. Be careful not to inhale the particles as you're doing this because they are very fine and fluffy and fly around in the air. You might want to wear a mask while doing this. The last thing I add is usually sold as orchid mix, and basically it's just a mix of bark, chips and wood fibers, and it just adds more drainage to the mix. Makes it more fluffy and adds more drainage. Then I just mix the whole thing really well. Again, make sure you don't breathe in the fibers and the spores of the moss because they are very fine and tend to fly up in the air. Mix it really well, get all the stuff from the bottom, make sure it's all mixed really good. And now you have this nice and fluffy, well-draining, moisture-holding mixture that's ready to use for your plants. You always want to make sure to start with a fresh, clean pot. So you don't want there to be any soil or dirt in there from another plant that was in there previous, or just dirt from outside if you had the pot outside. So always just wash your pot before you start. So I usually just do this in my kitchen sink, just with warm water and dish soap, and I just give it a really good scrub inside and out, front to back, all around, just to make sure there's nothing left from a previous plant, or if you had the plant outside in the summer, there might have been some bugs on it, so I just make sure everything is nice and clean for the new plant. So now that you have your clean pot, fill it with your soil mixture, and I usually fill it about a quarter of the way, just so there's room for the root ball to sit on top and to grow into. Then take the plant in its old pot, inspect it, and see if you can get it out easy out of its old pot. So what I usually do is I kind of gently tug on the stem and jiggle it around a little bit. This one is really easy to get out. Usually the clay pots come out easy. So there you go. You can see that it is pretty root bound, not too bad. And these plants don't mind being root bound that bad. But yeah, so there it is. There's a root ball. And then what I do is I break it up gently. And I just want to kind of break up the soil and break up the root ball a little bit, and I just gently pull it apart with my fingers. And you don't want to be too rough with this. Just kind of gently pull it apart. Just separate it a little bit, and there you go. And there you have it, a nice separated root ball that's easy to transplant. So then you want to put it on top of the little nest that you just created with the new soil. So just put it on top of there and make sure it's not sticking out too far, not in too deep, just kind of like just right. So then you can go ahead and fill it with the new soil that you just made. Just kind of scoop it on top, push it down the sides a little bit, but not too much. Don't compact it down. Just kind of loosely pile it on and kind of loosely push it in to all the crevices so that the roots have lots of room to grow into. You don't want to make it too tight because then it's too compacted. And then you want to just look it over. Make sure that it's centered in the pot and looking the way that you want it to look. Make sure that there is soil everywhere that it needs to be and that it's all good. And here it is. It looks good. Give it one more look over. Make sure you like it. And that's it. And in order not to be wasteful, you can reuse some of the soil that came out of the old pot and mix it in with a new mixture, as long as the plant wasn't sick. Here's my gold dust croton, which is about 2 years old right now, and I've had it outside all summer, so I'm gonna repot this one as well. And again, like before, give it a good look over, give it a little tug on the stems, see if it will come out easily. In these clay pots, they usually are not too stuck, so they usually come out pretty easy. And there we go, coming out pretty good. And this one is, it looks root bound, but it's actually not too bad. I just want to repot it because I had it outside all summer, and just in case there's bugs in there or something, or just to give it some new fresh soil with new nutrients in it as well. Oh look, there's a pebble in there that I forgot about. I had a bunch of pebbles and rocks on top of all my plants that I had outside in the summer to protect them from the squirrels. And there we go again. Just gently break up the root ball. Just be gentle about it, not too harsh. Just kind of separate some of the roots. You will hear something that sounds like tearing, and that's okay, as long as you're not too rough with it. Plants are pretty tough. They recover pretty easily. You can tap it lightly just to get some of the excess soil off the root ball as well. That works really well. And then again, you take your clean pot, make sure it has drainage holes on the bottom. I usually just drill them myself into the plastic pots. It's pretty easy to do. And then you want to put it into a decorative overpot or a saucer, just so that the water doesn't go everywhere when you water it. And then you take your soil mixture, again, put it about a quarter of a way full in the pot, make a little nest for the plant, leaving enough room to accommodate the root ball. Then you drop in the plant, put the root ball in so that it's not sticking up over the pot, but it's also not in too deep in the pot. So you just want to kind of have it in the middle so that when you fill it with the new soil, that it's level with the pot, or just a little bit below the lip of the pot, so that when you water it, it doesn't overflow. And then, like before, fill the pot with a new soil mixture and get it in all the spaces. Tap it down gently, not too tight. Make sure the plant is even and centered in the pot. And again, you don't want to compact the soil too much. Just kind of gently press it into all the crevices You want to leave room for the roots to grow. Before moving my plants in for the winter, if I had them outdoors, I always make sure to spray them with an insecticidal soap, just to make sure that there's no bugs that you bring inside the house to your other plants. This is the insecticidal soap I use. It's really great. It kills all sorts of spider mites, aphids, whiteflies, thrips, caterpillars, you name it. The one I have is a concentrated formula that you have to mix in a spray bottle with water, but you can also get it in a formula that's ready to be sprayed. Before I spray my plants with the insecticide, I usually hose them off outside with a garden hose, just to knock off any dirt or any bigger bugs that might be on there, just to kind of clean them before I spray them. I usually do this outside with a garden hose, just because it's easier, but if you don't have a yard, you can just do it in a sink. After any excess water has run off, I go ahead and spray all my plants with the insecticidal soap. And you can see here I did a bunch of plants today, and so I just give them a good spray down with the insecticidal soap. And you want to get under the leaves and in between crevices. Just make sure you get all the leaves and the stems and also the soil, just to make sure you kill everything that might be on there. Then I leave them outside for a couple hours to dry before I bring them in. And here they are in the house, all freshly repotted and ready for another winter in the house. And this is Millie. She also wanted to be in the video. And that's pretty much it. Let me know if you have any questions, and thanks for watching.